welcome to World Konnect, a show where we get you the latest from across the world. I'm Shreya. Now, this week saw US President Donald Trump's first speech at a joint session of the US Congress, where he condemned the racial attack in Kansas. On the other hand, in UK, Prime Minister Theresa May suffered the first setback to her Brexit plans. And if violence was not enough, South Sudan is now grappling with a collapsed economy and famine. There was also the Oscars, which went down as one of the most memorable ones for reasons far from being right. In the show today, we will get you all of this and also take you to Croatia, which is dancing and singing through its annual carnival. But before that, let's get straight to the headlines. Trump's pick, Jeff Sessions, under fire again, this time for not disclosing his meetings with the Russian envoy during confirmation hearing. Democrats demand the US Attorney General's resignation. Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit plan suffers its first big blow as Britain's upper house votes to protect the rights of EU nationals. All eyes now on UK's divorce process, which hangs in air. As Germany cancels two pro-Erdogan rallies, strained Turkish-German ties continue to heat up. War of words between the two countries escalates, with Turkey accusing Germany of aiding its enemies. After war and violence, it's famine now taking a human toll in South Sudan. More than 5 million poverty-ridden people wait for food as the world bodies rush to help the conflict-stricken country. And it was perhaps the biggest goof-up in Oscar history as the Best Picture announcement gets mixed up in Oscars 2017. Dev Patel's starer Lion loses an Oscar, but its child actor Sunny Pawar wins hearts across the world. First up, it's controversy after controversy for US Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who has now been accused of meeting a Russian diplomat during President Trump's election campaign and is facing the heat for not disclosing it during the confirmation hearing. Now, while Democrats demand Sessions' resignation, President Trump slammed Democrats for targeting Sessions and called it a total witch hunt.
Controversies continue to haunt U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, the most contentious pick of President Donald Trump so far. From allegations of poor civil rights records to alleged links with Russia, Sessions has been walking a rocky road since he was named for Team Trump. Sessions' meetings with a Russian diplomat during Trump's election campaign have triggered the fresh storm. Democrat senators have demanded Sessions resign, accusing him of not disclosing during his confirmation hearing the meetings he had with Russian envoy Sergei Kislyak, even after he was asked about it. At the confirmation hearing, Minnesota Senator A.L. Franken had questioned Sessions about his Russian links. It all started when Washington Post reported that Jeff Sessions failed to disclose two meetings he had with Russia's ambassador before Donald Trump was inaugurated as president. It said one of Sessions' meetings was a private conversation with Sergei Kislyak that took place in the senator's office in September. As the controversy snowballed, several leading diplomats, including House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, demanded Jeff Sessions resign, while others called for an independent investigation. As the furor became louder, the Attorney General recused himself from his participation in any investigation into possible ties with Russia and the Trump presidential campaign. He said he did nothing wrong when he did not disclose during Senate testimony that he had met last year with Russia's ambassador. President Donald Trump slammed the Democrats for targeting Jeff Sessions, calling the whole episode as a total witch hunt. Trump tweeted, "Jeff Sessions is an honest man. He did not say anything wrong. He could have stated his response more accurately, but it was clearly not intentional. The Democrats are overplaying their hand." Both Sessions and Trump said leaks of private information coming from government are of more importance than Sessions' meeting with the Russian official. Meanwhile, Russia has said that it was unaware that the U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions had met the Russian ambassador Kislyak, also adding that such meetings were routine.
Well, it was not a surprise when US President Donald Trump talked about immigration in his first speech at the joint session of the US Congress this week. Tighter laws, tougher demarcations, it was all on expected lines. But what took center stage was his condemnation of the recent racial attacks in Kansas and the Jewish cemeteries. Now, does this mean we are going to see a softer Donald Trump who welcomes immigrants, or is it just a play of words? Take a look at this report.
Strong words from US President Donald Trump condemning attacks against Jews and Indian immigrants, calling them examples of hate and evil. Words that surprised people the world over. President Trump spoke out against the vandalism witnessed at Jewish cemeteries and the Kansas racial attack in his first address to the joint session of the US Congress. Words that were much awaited, words that show a more inclusive Donald Trump. With a more lofty and unifying language, President Trump said that he would yield a new chapter of American greatness when he touched issues of immigration, counterterrorism, trade and defense in his hour-long speech. In a campaign that divided not just the United States but people across the world, Republican Donald Trump had a harder, more stern stance on immigration. What with the immigration policy and the wall which he plans to build at the border with Mexico. Now, as the US President, breaking his silence on the murder of Indian engineer Srinivas Kochibotla in Kansas last week, Donald Trump allayed some of the fears back home on whether Indians living in the US would be on the radar of his immigration policy. When the president called for adopting a merit-based immigration system that could benefit high-tech professionals from countries like India, it was already evident that his hardline campaign rhetoric has been modified. However, fears still remain. As the world watches Trump administration's moves closely, Indians who have friends and family working in America have been especially concerned. Even though lowering taxes, health insurance and repealing and replacing Obamacare would not directly affect India, the US government's next move on curbing of H-1B visas is crucial for Indian tech firms as well as techies. In his speech, Donald Trump warned against the misuse of visas and trade protectionism. He said that he is not going to let America and its great companies and workers be taken advantage of anymore. Trump said he's going to bring back millions of jobs, and protecting America's workers also means reforming America's system of legal immigration. The US President concluded the portion of his speech on immigration by saying that Republicans and Democrats can work together to achieve an outcome that has eluded America for decades. The question now is whether the President was carving out a new, more sober political persona, or whether he'll return to being the old Donald Trump that we saw during the 2016 presidential race.
News from UK now. It was all going smooth for British Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit plans until Britain's upper house of the Parliament voted for an amendment this week. Now, the amendment requires ministers to protect the rights of EU nationals based in the United Kingdom after Brexit. This upsets Prime Minister May's plan of starting UK's formal exit by the second week of March. But now she will have to sort this legislative hurdle out. The question is, how?
Britain's upper house of the Parliament dealt a blow to Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit plans. The House of Lords, where the ruling Conservatives do not have a majority, voted for an amendment requiring ministers to protect the rights of EU nationals based in the UK following Brexit, thereby putting a speed block to the Brexit bill. PM May had hoped to start UK's formal exit of the European Union by the second week of March at the earliest, will now have to sort out the legislative hurdle. The House of Lords, after a fierce debate, voted 358 to 256. According to the amendment backed by the Lords, it would be a requisite for the government to introduce proposals within 3 months of Article 50 to ensure that EU citizens in the UK have the same residence rights after Britain's exit from the Union.
I now want to say to the government, you can't do negotiations with people's futures. They're too precious to be used as bargaining chips.
The Prime Minister, at the end of last year, made an attempt to resolve this issue in advance of the negotiations on a reciprocal basis, and that was rejected out of hand by Chancellor Merkel and President Tusk on the grounds that no discussion of this issue could take place until Article 50 was invoked.
The changes made in the House of Lords would now have to be approved by the lower house. The House of Commons had last month passed the Brexit bill without any changes, and the bill now is expected to be passed between both the houses till a final call is taken. An apparent delay in triggering Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty that would formalise UK's process of leaving the European Union. The peers will vote next week on another amendment which would allow MPs a meaningful vote on the outcome of PM May's Brexit negotiations. If that vote too is not favourable to the government's scheduled Brexit plans, Theresa May might come under pressure from her own MPs to agree to that amendment passing into law. The amended bill will return to the House of Commons on the 13th and 14th of March. The MPs in the lower house will debate whether to keep the changes.
A row between Ankara and Berlin over the cancellation of Turkish political rallies in Germany has escalated the already strained Turkish-German ties. Now, the row started after Turkey arrested a journalist working for a German newspaper on charges of spreading terrorist propaganda. And Germany had in turn summoned the Turkish envoy. In the latest war of words, Turkish President Erdogan has accused Berlin of aiding and harboring terror.
Stay away from populism ahead of this referendum. If you want to maintain your relations with us, you have to learn how to behave. You cannot tackle these matters with these methods. It can't go on this way. If necessary, we will respond in every way.
Turkish Foreign Minister minced no words as he educated Germany on how to tackle issues concerning bilateral ties. Ankara is infuriated over cancellation of events by two German towns that Turkish ministers were scheduled to address. Turkey's Justice Minister Bekir Bozak was supposed to speak at an event at Jagan, while Economy Minister Nihat Zebeki was due to address a gathering in Cologne. The rallies were aimed at consolidating further support for President Tayyip Erdogan among the over 1.5 million Turkish nationals living in Germany. Stakes are high for Erdogan in April's referendum on expanding the powers of the Turkish presidency, for which the expatriates are eligible to vote. As a fallout, Justice Minister Bozak cancelled a meeting with his German counterpart and flew back to Turkey. Turkey also summoned Germany's envoy in Ankara to protest against the cancellation.
It is unacceptable that German authorities, who always give out speeches on human rights, democracy and freedom of expression and accuses everyone other than themselves for having deficiencies, cannot tolerate a meeting held by Turkish community.
The developments reflected a growing tension in Germany-Turkey ties. The two NATO allies indulged in a war of words after Turkey arrested a journalist who worked for a prominent German newspaper Die Welt. Turkish-German Deniz Yücel was arrested on charges of spreading terrorist propaganda and undermining Turkish government. Germany summoned the Turkish envoy in Berlin as Chancellor Angela Merkel sought the release of the journalist and said that Berlin would do everything to ensure Yücel's freedom. The German foreign minister said that Ankara's treatment of the journalist is damaging ties between the two nations. Many Turkish writers and journalists have been reportedly arrested in a widespread crackdown that followed a failed coup against Erdogan in July 2016. Germany has been critical of the crackdown in Turkey and had given repeated calls for Ankara to do enough to stop rights violations, which Ankara has been ignoring, saying it knows best how to deal with internal matters. Ties between Berlin and Ankara had been witnessing several ups and downs over the past year. The recent episode has only added more fuel to the fire.
Embattled French presidential candidate François Fillon has vowed to fight on after he was summoned for questioning by judges investigating the fake job scandal involving payments to his wife. Now, Fillon has accused the judiciary and the media of bias. This latest inquiry and his comments against the judiciary resulted in a number of high-profile defections from his campaign. A number of Republicans now favour Alain Juppé, who came second in the Conservative Party's primary to represent the party for the top job. Another candidate for the French presidential polls, far-right leader Marine Le Pen, too suffered setbacks this week. Le Pen has also been summoned by a judge over reports of misusing European Union funds. Earlier, she was also stripped of the EU parliamentary immunity for tweeting pictures of Islamic State violence. The far-right leader has denounced the legal proceedings against her as political interference in the campaign. Le Pen and centrist Emmanuel Macron continue to occupy the top two places in the opinion polls. Well, let's get you updates on that dramatic killing of Kim Jong-nam, the estranged half-brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Now, Malaysia has charged two women, an Indonesian and a Vietnamese, with murder over their alleged involvement in Kim Jong-nam's killing. They could face the death penalty if convicted. Kim Jong-nam was killed, remember, in Kuala Lumpur's main airport on the 13th of February after two women allegedly smeared VX nerve agent across his face. Another North Korean chemist was also held for the murder and was later deported from Malaysia after insufficient evidence to charge him. South Sudan, a country which is the youngest in the world, has been in news for conflicts, violence and hunger. A collapsed economy, poverty and famine that has left over 5 million people starving. And not just Sudan, Yemen, Nigeria and Somalia are hard hit from this starvation crisis. Now, voices in South Sudan and across the world are growing each day to push the international community for immediate action in the country.
It is the youngest nation of the world, but far, far away from being the happiest. South Sudan, torn by conflicts and violence, is facing its worst, already grappling with a collapsed economy with inflation and poverty rates at unprecedented levels. Famine in South Sudan has now left its government and world community alarmed. Hiding in the swamps and islands of the River Nile from gunmen, thousands of South Sudanese families have no permanent source of food. For months, they had been surviving by eating water lily roots or fish occasionally. According to the government, nearly 5.5 million people may not have a reliable access to affordable food by July. United Nations and World Food Programme have cautioned that millions of South Sudanese need urgent food, agriculture and nutrition assistance. As the situation continues to deteriorate further, world bodies have rushed aid for those suffering after government assured safe access to hunger-stricken civilians.
We need to have safety and security in this location before we can come back to do the distribution as we're going to do now. But more importantly, to be able to establish much longer term activity.
Oil-rich South Sudan has been mired in civil war since 2013 when President Salva Kiir fired his deputy. Since then, the fighting has increasingly split the country along ethnic lines, leading the United Nations to warn of a potential genocide. The fighting has prevented farmers from harvesting crops. Coupled with drought, the scarcity of food has now reached dangerous levels. Besides South Sudan, Nigeria, Somalia and Yemen are also on the brink of severe starvation crisis. The United Nations has sought $4 billion to help nearly 20 million people in these countries by the end of March. There are growing voices calling for immediate action, arguing that there is no room for any further delay.
And after that, take a look at some of the other news from across the world. A ship, pirates and a passionate fight that the common man wins. The story is nothing short of a Hollywood blockbuster, but well, it is what Croatians celebrate every year in a carnival which sees locals dancing, singing and spreading the importance of valuing heritage.
Celebration of the victory of good over evil is a definite part of many cultures across the world. From continents to small towns, people from the small Croatian island of Lastovo to celebrate an event where their ancestors overcame the wicked pirates, creating a legend remembered and celebrated for centuries. A group of pirates, after conquering a nearby place, sent a messenger to Lastovo to demand their surrender. The islanders would not go down without a fight. Armed and ready to attack, the inhabitants were getting ready to fight after seeking the intercession of St. George. The pirate ship was soon wrecked as the result of an unforeseen tempest in the Adriatic Sea, signaling the victory of Lastovo. The messenger of the pirates was caught, paraded on a donkey, and later sentenced to death. The reenactment of this incident has become an integral part of the carnival celebrations called Poklad.
To me and probably to our islanders on Lastovo, this means everything. We live all year for this day and for us is the dearest and most precious thing we have.
The legend, dated to the 16th century, still has left its mark. The city people make it a point to come back to the annual carnival every year, even if work and life takes them to other places in the world. For the islanders, it is a unique part of their identity.
Many are surprised to see this tradition survive to this day. That's because it's in us.
Carnivals of different places not only signify fun and enjoyment, the parade and the dances speak much more. The people, the history, the tradition and the culture. Life with all the rich customs and heritage oft distinctive.
Let's talk about the Oscars now. 2017 Oscars will go down in history not just for the Best Picture mix-up but for the many other firsts recorded in the Academy Award history. Let's have a look at the never-before moments of the 89th Academy Awards.
Social media went wild with a goof-up moment when presenters Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway received the wrong envelope and mistakenly announced La La Land as the winner. The mistake was identified and Moonlight was to be revealed as the real winner. The episode, first of its kind in Oscar history, almost killed the Oscar moment for Moonlight, which also became the first ever gay-themed movie with a central gay protagonist to win Best Picture after a series of near misses over the years. For the Best Picture goof-up, accountants PricewaterhouseCoopers, who oversee the ballots, said that the presenters had mistakenly been given the wrong category envelope. In a statement, PwC apologized to the teams of Moonlight and La La Land, presenters Beatty and Dunaway and all the Oscar viewers. Another first was credited to 32-year-old Damien Chazelle, who became the youngest ever Best Director for La La Land. The film went into the ceremony with a record 14 nominations and registered 6 wins. Oscar 2017 will also be remembered for awarding record number of black stars, a year after the ceremony was marred by Oscar So White controversy. Oscar is also credited this year for the most diverse group of winners, including Mahershala Ali, who became the first Muslim to win an Oscar for acting. Ali bagged Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for Moonlight.
Staying with Oscars, 8-year-old Sunny Pawar won hearts across the world and melted the internet when he attended the Oscars in a bow tie. Cheers, applause and whistles greeted the Lion star when he returned home to Mumbai. And well, what did Sunny do? He did what he does best, wore his smile and charmed his way through a sea of fans going gaga over the delightful actor.
Lion might have lost out an Oscar award, but the Lion Cub has surely won the hearts of millions. Sunny Pawar, an 8-year-old from the Mumbai slums, shot to fame after his portrayal of young Saru Brierley in the movie Lion. The film features the story of Saru. Brought up in an Australian family, he returns to India to trace his birth family from whom he became estranged as a kid. Sunny's effortless portrayal of a lost boy, suddenly separated from his family, all alone in the big world, far away from home, had won accolades in the film world. His bubbly and charismatic presence at the 89th Academy Awards ceremony was a big hit. His easy smile captivated all the big stars who were blown away by the child artist's innocent charm, including co-stars Dev Patel, who plays the older Saru in the film, and Nicole Kidman.
बहुत खुश हूँ मैं और ऑस्कर अटेंड किया वो बहुत बड़ा बात है मेरे लिए.
The down-to-earth Sunny received a hero's welcome back home as his family gave him a rousing welcome at Mumbai airport. As Sunny arrived home after the Oscars ceremony trip along with his father, cheers and whistles greeted the star kid.
जितने बताओ उतना कम है. जो सोचा नहीं तो उसने कर दिखाया है और उसके लिए मैं क्या बोल सकती हूँ मैं कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा. मैं तो सोच रही हूँ जितना उसके लिए मैं तारीफ करूँ मेरे बच्चे के लिए कम ही रहेगा.
Selected from around 2,000 children, Sunny Pawar's journey from Mumbai to Australia, then the award stop at Hollywood still continues. With more movies in the making, Sunny's screen presence will continue to delight film lovers across the globe.
This brings us to the end of this edition of World Konnect. Do send us your feedbacks. You can write to us. Our email ID is worldkonnect.ddnews@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and do keep in touch through our Twitter handle, which is @WorldKonnectDD. Now, we just don't seem to have had enough of Oscars this week, so we leave you with glimpses of little kids dressing up for the red carpet cameras. You take a look at those visuals. Thanks for joining in. Namaskar.